It is just after dawn. The air in your lungs is cool and sharp, tasting of wood smoke, damp earth, and the faint, familiar scent of the tannery down by the lower gate. From your position on the old oak palisade, you can see the entire world. Your world. The town of Vercorium, clinging to this windswept hill like a limpet to a rock. Below, the patchwork of fields, green with the promise of a late spring crop, unfolds towards the dark line of the forest. A thin trail of smoke rises from the baker's oven, a comforting plume against the pale gray sky. You can hear the town waking up, the clatter of a shutter being thrown open, the lowing of a cow being led to pasture, the distant, rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, a sound as constant and reassuring as a heartbeat. This is the rhythm of your life. It has been the rhythm of your father's life and his father's before him. The walls you stand on are old. The stones at their base were laid by men whose names are now just stories, their deeds sung by the bards on festival nights. These walls have seen off rival chieftains, repelled raids from the wild tribes of the north, and stood defiant against the changing seasons for generations. They are a part of the hill itself. They are home. You shift your weight, the leather of your worn sandals creaking. You are not a warrior, you are a potter. Your hands, calloused and stained with clay, are made for shaping bowls and jugs, not for holding a spear. But every free man in Vercorium takes a turn on the watch. It is a duty, a tradition. Mostly, it is a formality, a chance to watch the sun rise and think. Today, however, your thoughts are not on the clay or the kiln. They are on the stories. Stories that have been trickling in for months, carried by traders and traveling merchants. They speak of an army unlike any seen before. They call themselves Romans. They move not like a raiding party, but like a flood, a slow, relentless tide of iron and leather. They do not just fight, they build. They cut down entire forests to make machines of war. They divert rivers. They build walls to besiege walls. The stories are fantastical, unbelievable. The elders of the council dismissed them at first. The boasts of frightened men, they said. Vercorium has stood for 500 years. Its warriors are brave. Its gods are strong. What have we to fear from these soft southerners with their ridiculous short swords and their obsession with straight lines? But the stories kept coming. A town to the east, one that traded with you for salt and iron, has fallen silent. A patrol of your chieftain's best warriors sent to scout the southern roads did not return. A sense of unease, a low hum of anxiety has settled over Vercorium, thick and cloying as the summer fog. The laughter in the tavern is a little louder, a little too forced. The sacrifices at the sacred grove are more frequent, the offerings more lavish. People have started hoarding grain, burying their valuables. They look at the walls not with pride, but with a new, desperate hope. You look at them now, tracing the familiar lines of the timber and stone, and for the first time in your life, you wonder if they are strong enough. The sun is higher now, burning off the last of the morning mist. You are about to call out to the next watchman, to hand over the spear that feels so awkward in your grip and return to your workshop, to the comforting familiarity of the spinning wheel in the wet clay. But you pause. There is something on the horizon, far to the south where the road emerges from the forest. A flicker of movement, a glint of light. It is not the familiar sight of a merchant's cart or a returning hunting party. This is different. You squint, your heart beginning to beat a little faster. It is a dust cloud, a long, thin ribbon of dust rising into the still air, and beneath it the source of the glinting, 1,000 points of light catching the morning sun. It looks like a river of metal flowing steadily, inexorably towards your home. The stories were not stories, they are here. You do not shout, the sound is caught in your throat. You just stand there, gripping the rough wood of the palisade as the river of steel grows wider, closer. The low hum of anxiety that has permeated the town for weeks is about to be replaced by the deafening roar of certainty. The Romans have come to Vercorium, and the rhythm of your life is about to be broken forever. The question is no longer if they are real. The only question that matters now is this: would you survive what is to come? The initial shock gives way to a strange, terrifying clarity. The column is endless. It is not a rabble. It is a single, segmented creature, a monstrous iron centipede crawling over the land. You can begin to make out details. a large square of men marching in perfect step, their shields held at a uniform height. The sun flashes on the polished iron of their helmets, each one topped with a horsehair crest that bobs in unison. You see beasts of burden, hundreds of them, pulling covered wagons. You see men who are not soldiers, men with shovels and axes and strange measuring tools. And at the head of the column, you see them, the standards, tall poles adorned with silver eagles, their wings outstretched, glinting menacingly. The sight sends a cold dread through you that has nothing to do with the morning chill. An army that brings its own symbols of divine power is an army that does not intend to leave. The alarm is finally raised. A horn bellows from the main gate, a frantic bleating sound. The town explodes into a cacophony of panicked activity. Doors slam open. People pour into the narrow, winding streets, their faces a mixture of terror and disbelief. The chieftain and his warriors, clad in their finest mail and brightly colored cloaks, rush to the walls, shouting orders that are mostly lost in the din. Women hurry their children indoors. The blacksmith's hammer falls silent. The entire familiar symphony of your town is replaced by a single, discordant note of fear. You are swept up in the current, pushed and pulled by the crowd. You find your wife, her face pale, her hands clutching your two young children. You lead them back to your small wattle and daub house, your mind racing. You have a small cellar filled with the pottery you were meant to take to market. You also have a few sacks of grain, some dried meat, and a large cask of water. Is it enough? How long could it possibly be? A week, a month, the thought is absurd. No army could sustain itself in the field for that long. They will try the walls, be bloodied, and leave. They must. Days pass, the Romans do not attack. This in itself is a new kind of terror. They are not behaving like any enemy you have ever known. They do not rage or boast or make challenges at the foot of your walls. Instead, they work. With a silent, terrifying efficiency, they begin to transform the landscape. Their camp is not a chaotic collection of tents. It is a fortress in its own right. Men with long poles and ropes mark out a perfect square on the plain below. Then, the digging begins. Thousands of men working in shifts, their shovels and picks rising and falling with a relentless, hypnotic rhythm. The sound carries up to the walls, a constant, grating reminder of their presence. Scrape, thud, scrape, thud. It is the sound of your world being unmade. They are digging a ditch, a massive one, wide and deep, that will eventually encircle your entire hill. Behind the ditch, they are building a rampart from the excavated earth, and on top of that, a wooden palisade studded with watchtowers. They are building a wall to besiege your wall. The elders call it sorcery. It is not. It is engineering. It is logistics. It is the Roman way of war. They are not here to fight you. They are here to contain you. To isolate you from the world, to cut you off from all hope of reinforcement or escape, and then to squeeze. Your chieftain, a man of great courage but little patience, cannot stand the inactivity. He orders a sortie. At dawn, the main gate swings open and 500 of your best warriors, screaming their war cries, charge down the slope towards the half-finished Roman works. It is a glorious, desperate sight. Their painted shields, their long hair streaming behind them, their iron-tipped spears held high. You watch from the wall, your heart pounding with a fierce, desperate pride. For a moment, it seems to work. They crash into a line of Roman legionaries, scattering them. They leap into the ditch, scrambling up the other side. Then the response comes, not with panicked shouting, but with the crisp, clear blast of a trumpet. From the Roman camp, cohorts move out, not in a rush, but in a calm, measured advance. They form lines, their large, curved shields locking together to create a solid wall of wood and steel. The testudo, the tortoise. Your warriors, fighting as brave individuals, throw themselves against this formation. Their long swords, designed for slashing, clang uselessly against the Roman shields and helmets. The Romans do not slash back. They wait for an opening and then a short, sharp thrust from behind the shield wall. A quick, brutal, efficient movement with the short sword, the gladius. It is not a duel. It is an execution. From the watchtowers on their new wall, other soldiers unleash a storm of projectiles. Arrows, yes, but also heavy iron bolts from strange, crossbow-like devices they call scorpions, and stones from powerful slings. The air is thick with whistling death. The glorious charge becomes a chaotic retreat. Your warriors scramble back towards the gate, leaving a trail of their dead and wounded on the green slope. The Romans do not pursue. They simply reform their lines, collect their own wounded, and then, incredibly, they go back to digging. Scrape, thud, scrape, thud. The message is clear. Your bravery is irrelevant. Your fury is an inconvenience. You are not a worthy opponent to be fought. You are a problem to be solved. The Roman wall is complete. It is a monstrous thing, a scar on the land, 12 miles in circumference. It has towers every 80 feet, each manned by sentries. There are forts at regular intervals, housing entire cohorts. And beyond that, they have built another, outward-facing wall, a contravallation to protect themselves from any relief army that might try to help you. You are now officially living in a cage. The world you knew, the fields, the forest, the river, is now just a view. A landscape you can see, but never touch again. The first week of the siege proper is a novelty. There is a sense of communal spirit. Everyone shares what they have. The chieftain makes stirring speeches about the courage of your ancestors and the certainty of victory. The bards sing songs of defiance. You and others like you are put to work reinforcing the walls, carrying stones, and making repairs. But the novelty soon wears off. The first thing you notice is the silence. The familiar sounds of the countryside are gone. No birdsong, no distant cowbells. The only sounds are the ones from within the walls and the constant, unnerving presence of the Roman camp below. The second thing you notice is the smell. With thousands of people and their animals confined to a small space, and with the summer heat beginning to build, the town's sanitation, never perfect, begins to break down. The stench of human waste, rotting garbage, and fear hangs in the air, a thick, invisible shroud. Then the hunger begins, not a sudden, dramatic famine, but a slow, creeping erosion of your strength. The public granaries are put under armed guard. Rations are distributed daily. At first, it seems like enough. A scoop of wheat, a piece of hard cheese, but it is never quite enough to fill your belly. You are always a little hungry. Your wife thins the children's porridge with more and more water. You start to see the effects in the faces of your neighbors, the pinched expressions, the hollows around the eyes. Tempers fray, arguments break out over a dropped piece of bread. A man is flogged in the public square for stealing from the granary. The communal spirit begins to curdle into suspicion and resentment. You have your own small stash of grain in the cellar. Every night you face a terrible choice. Do you use a little of it to supplement your family's meager rations, to keep the flesh on your children's bones for one more day? Or do you save it, hoarding it for the truly desperate times you know are coming? Every handful you take feels like a theft from your own future. Your workshop is silent. There is no clay, no water to spare. Your hands, once skilled at creation, are now idle or used for the grim work of piling stones and digging latrine pits. You feel a part of yourself shriveling up, along with your stomach. Disease follows hunger as surely as night follows day. The flux, a bloody, dehydrating sickness that spreads like wildfire through the crowded, filthy conditions. It starts in the lower town, among the poorest families, but soon it is everywhere. The healers, with their poultices and prayers, are overwhelmed. Every day you see the death carts creaking through the streets, piled with bodies wrapped in sackcloth. You try to keep your children clean, to boil what little water you have, but it feels like trying to build a dam with sand. One morning, your youngest child, your daughter, wakes with a fever. Her skin is hot to the touch, her eyes glassy. The fear you feel is a physical thing, a cold, heavy stone in your gut, far worse than the constant hunger. You would trade everything you have, every sack of grain, every piece of silver you buried under the floorboards, for one drop of clean water, for one word of hope from a healer who is not exhausted and defeated. Outside, the Romans wait. They are not starving. You can see the smoke from their thousands of cooking fires at dusk. You can sometimes smell the roasting meat on the wind, a scent that is both maddening and heartbreaking. They are comfortable. They are supplied. They have built an entire city outside your walls with its own streets, bathhouses, and markets. Convoys of wagons arrive daily from the south, replenishing their stores. They are not fighting a battle, they are conducting a process, and you are the raw material. Weeks turn into a month, then two. The late spring has given way to the oppressive heat of high summer. The leaves on the trees inside the walls have been stripped for animal fodder, and now the bark is being peeled away. The dogs and cats have long since disappeared into the cooking pots. People have started to eye the rats with a new kind of interest. The faces in the street are skeletal. People walk with a slow, shuffling gait, conserving every ounce of energy. The social order is breaking down completely. The chieftain's authority is a joke. His personal guard now exists only to protect the remaining food supplies for themselves and the other nobles. Gangs of desperate men roam the streets at night, taking what they want. You barricade the door to your house at sunset, listening to the sounds of fighting and screaming, praying they will pass you by. One evening, a neighbor, a weaver you have known your whole life, comes to your door. His own family starved to death weeks ago. He is a walking skeleton, his eyes wild with a terrifying lucidity. He does not ask for food, he offers you a choice. There is a council of sorts being formed, he says, a council of the desperate. They have a plan. They will go to the chieftain, to the elders, and make a proposal. A terrible proposal born of ultimate despair. The useless mouths, he calls them. The old, the sick, the children. They consume food and water but cannot fight. They should be expelled, driven out of the gates and into the arms of the Romans. Let the Romans deal with them. It would be a mercy, he argues, his voice a dry rasp. A mercy to them and a salvation for those who remain. He looks at you at the closed door behind which your sick daughter lies whimpering, and he asks you to join them, to add your voice to the call. What do? Do you cling to the last vestiges of your humanity, the love for your family and your community, even if it means you will all starve together? Or do you make the cold, brutal calculation of survival? Do you sacrifice the weakest to save the strong? This is the true nature of the siege. It is not about walls and weapons. It is a relentless assault on your soul. It forces you to look into the darkest corners of human nature and ask yourself what you are willing to become in order to see another sunrise. The proposal of the desperate is made. It is a testament to how far Vercorium has fallen that the chieftain and the elders actually consider it. The debate rages for days in the Great Hall, while outside, people lie dying in the streets. In the end, a shred of decency, or perhaps just the fear of the gods, prevails. The proposal is rejected, but the very fact that it was voiced has poisoned the air. Neighbor looks at neighbor with suspicion. The parent of a healthy child looks at the parent of a sick one with a cold, calculating gaze. The community is dead. All that is left is a collection of starving individuals trapped on a hill. The Romans, patient as ever, decide it is time to escalate. The methodical work on their side of the wall has not stopped. For weeks, you have seen them felling trees in the distant forest, sawing timber, and assembling vast, strange structures. Now they begin to move them forward. The first one is a siege tower, a turris ambulatoria. It is a monster, a wooden castle on wheels, taller than your own walls. It is covered in wet animal hides to protect it from fire. Inside, are hundreds of soldiers, ready to swarm onto your ramparts. It moves slowly, pushed from behind by teams of men, its wheels creaking and groaning under the immense weight. The ground trembles as it approaches. With it come the other machines, battering rams or ariots, long, heavy logs with iron heads suspended from a wheeled frame and covered by a protective roof. Their purpose is simple and brutal, to pound your gates into splinters. And then there is the artillery, not the small scorpions, but giant catapults. The onagers, named after the wild ass for their vicious kick, are designed to hurl massive stones. The ballistae are essentially giant crossbows, firing tree trunk-sized bolts with enough force to punch through your wooden palisades. The psychological effect is devastating. After months of slow starvation, you are now faced with the industrial might of an empire. The first shot from an onager is a sound you will never forget, a deep thwump, a long, terrifying whistle as the stone, the size of a man's torso, arcs through the air, and then a cataclysmic crash as it smashes into the wall a few hundred feet from where you stand. The impact shakes the very foundations of the hill. Stone splinters like shrapnel. Men are thrown from their feet. A cloud of dust and fear erupts from the point of impact, and then another, and another. It is not a battle, it is a demolition. You are no longer a potter. You are not even a man. You are a component in a desperate defense. Your role is to stand on the wall, a leather bucket in your hand, part of a chain of men passing water from the last dwindling cisterns to douse the fires started by the Roman fire arrows. The air is a hellish soup of smoke, dust, and the screams of the wounded. The noise is a physical assault. The constant, rhythmic thud-thud-thud of the battering ram against the main gate, a sound that seems to beat in time with your own terrified heart. The sharp crack of the ballistae, the deafening roar of the onagers, and over it all, the disciplined shouts of the Roman centurions, their commands cutting through the chaos like a knife. You see things you will never be able to unsee. A man next to you, his face a mask of grim determination, is struck squarely by a ballista bolt. It does not just kill him, it vaporizes his upper body, pinning the remains to the timber wall behind him. You see a section of the palisade, weakened by days of bombardment, finally collapse, taking a dozen defenders with it into the ditch below, where they are immediately set upon by Roman soldiers who have been waiting for just such an opportunity. You see your chieftain, a man who seemed like a giant just a few months ago, standing on the gatehouse, his fine cloak torn and blackened, his face streaked with soot, shouting encouragement that no one can hear. He looks small. He looks afraid. The siege tower reaches the wall. A drawbridge, heavy as a gate, slams down onto your rampart. The doors of the tower fly open, and the legionaries charge out. They are the men you saw marching months ago, but now they are up close. They are not monsters. They are men. Young men, old men, their faces set in grim, professional masks. They move with a terrifying purpose, their shields locked, their short swords stabbing. Your warriors, weakened by hunger and exhaustion, meet them with a desperate fury. The fighting is a maelstrom of hacking swords, splintering shields, and guttural screams. It is close, brutal, and intimate. You are not a warrior, but you are given a spear and pushed forward. You jab blindly at the wall of red shields, the spear bucking in your hands. A Roman soldier turns towards you. His face is bearded. His eyes are a calm, focused gray. He does not look at you with hatred. He looks at you as if you are a task to be completed. He bats your spear aside with his shield, the movement economical and practiced. For a fraction of a second, you are looking directly into the face of the Roman Empire. Its discipline, its pragmatism, its utter, unshakable self-assurance. Then his gladius comes up in a short, sharp arc. You are saved by the man next to you, a burly farmer who drives his own spear into the Roman's side, just under the arm. The Roman grunts, his eyes wide with surprise, and slumps to the ground. The farmer is immediately cut down by another legionary. The line holds, but only just. For hours, the battle for the rampart rages. You do not think, you do not feel, you just react. You pass stones to the men at the front. You help pull the wounded back from the edge. You douse fires. You jab with your spear when you have to. You are running on a fuel beyond exhaustion, a primal instinct to simply not die in this particular moment. As dusk falls, a trumpet sounds from the Roman lines. Incredibly, they withdraw. They pull back from the wall, taking their dead and wounded with them. The siege tower, scarred and smoking, is pulled back out of range. The battering ram falls silent. The bombardment ceases. They have not won, but they have not lost. They have simply finished their work for the day. They will be back tomorrow. The silence that descends is more terrifying than the noise. The rampart is a butcher's shop. The dead and the dying are everywhere. The air smells of blood, burnt wood, and cooked meat. You stumble through the carnage, looking for faces you know. You are covered in filth and someone else's blood. You are shaking uncontrollably, not from cold, but from a deep cellular shock. You finally make it back to your house. Your wife is there. Your children are there. Your sick daughter is still breathing. You collapse against the door, the stored-up terror of the day finally washing over you in a wave of nausea and despair. You have survived the first assault, but look at the cost. A third of the remaining warriors are dead or too badly wounded to fight. A section of the wall is severely damaged. Your supplies of water for fighting fires are almost gone. Your own reserves of courage are scraped clean. The Romans know this. They do not need to take the town by storm. They are simply demonstrating the inevitable. They are showing you in the most brutal way possible that you have no hope. That night, a new sound is heard from the Roman camp. It is not the sound of digging or hammering. It is the sound of thousands of men cheering. You crawl back to the ramparts to see what it is. In the light of their campfires, you can see them. A line of poles has been erected facing your walls. And on top of each pole is a head, the heads of the warriors from your chieftain's patrol, the one that went missing months ago. They have been preserved in salt, waiting for this exact moment. It is a message, a piece of psychological theater. It says, "We have held your best warriors in contemptuous reserve, merely to demoralize you at a time of our choosing. This is how little you mean to us." The next morning, something different happens. There is no assault. Instead, a single figure, an officer, approaches the wall under a flag of truce. He brings an offer: surrender, unconditional surrender. Lay down your arms, open the gates, and the lives of the civilian population will be spared. You will become slaves, your property will be forfeit, your town will be razed, but you will live. Your chieftain and the surviving warriors, however, will be executed as an example. The offer is delivered in a calm, business-like tone. It is not a negotiation. It is a statement of terms. The town is thrown into its final, agonizing debate. The warriors, what is left of them, would rather die fighting. It is a matter of honor. To surrender is to betray the ancestors, the gods, everything they stand for. But for you, for the thousands of civilians, the offer is a sliver of light in an endless darkness. Slavery is a terrible fate, but it is not death by starvation, disease, or a sword in the gut. You look at your children. Your daughter's fever has broken, but she is little more than a shadow. Your son stares with wide, hollow eyes, and you know what you must choose. The honor of a dead warrior is meaningless to a starving child. The songs of bards cannot fill an empty stomach. The glory of Vercorium is a ghost, a memory of a world that no longer exists. All that exists is this moment, and the fragile, flickering life of your family. You would see them live as slaves, rather than die as free men. The town square becomes the new battleground. Not a battle of swords and spears, but of wills. The chieftain, his face a mask of tragic pride, stands before the great hall, surrounded by the 50 or so warriors still able to stand. He speaks of the shame of surrender, the eternal damnation of cowardice. He reminds the people of the oaths they swore, the blood of their ancestors that runs in their veins. A few months ago, his words would have set the crowd roaring. Now they are met with a chilling, profound silence. The crowd is a single entity, a great, wounded beast of hunger and despair. They do not have the energy to shout. Their eyes, sunken in their skulls, do the talking. It is the weaver who speaks first, the man who came to your door. His voice is a dry rustle of leaves, but it carries across the silent square. "We have eaten the dogs," he says, his voice devoid of emotion. "We have eaten the leather from our shoes. We have boiled the bark from the trees. There is nothing left. Your honor will not feed our children." A murmur ripples through the crowd. It is not a sound of anger, but of agreement. 1,000 tiny sighs of shared misery. Another voice calls out, a woman's. "My son died this morning. For what? For your pride." The chieftain looks at them, and for the first time you see not a leader, but a man utterly alone. He is the guardian of a tradition that has already died. His world of honor and glory has been starved out of existence, and he has not yet realized it. The warriors around him shift uneasily. They are hungry too. Their families are in that crowd. They can see their own wives and children, their bones sharp beneath their skin. The line between warrior and civilian, protector and protected, has blurred into nothing. You find yourself moving. You are not a brave man, not a leader, but you are a father. You push through the silent, listless bodies, your wife's hand tight in yours, your son clinging to your leg. You are part of a current, a slow, inexorable human tide that begins to flow, not towards the chieftain, but towards the main gate. It is a silent mutiny, a referendum of shuffling feet. No one gives an order. No one needs to. The collective will of the starving has made its decision. They are going to open the gates. The warriors are faced with an impossible choice. To stop the crowd, they would have to cut down their own kin, their neighbors, the very people they swore to protect. For a long, tense moment, they stand frozen, their hands on the hilts of their swords. The chieftain roars a command, "Hold the gate, for the honor of our people," but his voice is swallowed by the vast, desperate silence of the crowd. One of the younger warriors, a boy you've known since he was born, looks from his chieftain to his mother in the crowd, her face a pleading mask of tears and grime. He lowers his spear. Then another does, and another. The defense of Vercorium does not end with a bang. It dissolves. A group of men, blacksmiths and carpenters whose hands still possess some strength, begin to work on the great iron-bound bar that seals the gate. The sound of their grunting, the screech of the wood as the bar is lifted from its brackets, is the death rattle of your town. The last act of Vercorium is not one of defiance, but of capitulation. You stand back with your family, your heart a cold, heavy knot in your chest. You have won the argument. You have chosen life. But it feels like a profound and terrible defeat. The gates swing inward. The sunlight that floods the dark, stinking street is painfully bright. For a moment, everyone freezes, blinded. Then you see them. The Romans. They are not a cheering mob, eager for plunder. They are standing in perfect, silent formations. A cohort of legionaries, their shields polished, their helmets gleaming, their spears held at a perfect, uniform angle. They are the image of implacable order. Behind them, you can see the officer who made the offer, sitting calmly on his horse, his face impassive. There is no rush, no chaos. The Romans advance into the town with the same methodical discipline they used to build their siege works. A centurion barks a short, sharp command. A unit peels off to secure the granary. Another moves towards the chieftain's hall. They move through the silent, staring crowds as if they are not there. You and the other townspeople are ghosts in your own home. The Romans are the only solid, real things in this landscape of ruin. You are herded like cattle towards the central square. The weak and the sick who cannot walk are left where they lie. There is no pity, there is only process. In the square, the sorting begins. A Roman scribe, a man with a weary, bureaucratic face, sets up a small table with wax tablets and a stylus. The officer on the horse directs the proceedings. All men who carried arms to the left, he commands in your own tongue, his accent clipped and foreign. The chieftain and his remaining warriors are shoved forward. They do not resist. Their fight is over. The chieftain holds his head high, his eyes fixed on some distant point, a king even in his final moments. They are bound with leather thongs, their hands behind their backs and led away. You know you will never see them again. They will be taken to the Roman general's tent, perhaps interrogated, and then, as promised, executed. Their heads will likely join the others on the poles, a final, grim accounting. Then the officer turns his attention to the rest of you, the great mass of survivors. You belong to Rome now, he says, his voice flat, without triumph or malice. Your lives are spared. Your fate will be decided by the governor. You will be fed, cooperate, and you will not be harmed. The process is slow, humiliating, and terrifyingly efficient. You are filed past the scribe's table one by one. You, your wife, and your children are pushed forward. A legionary grabs you, turning you around, inspecting you like an animal at market. He looks at your teeth. He feels the muscle in your arms. He sees your hands, the hands of a potter, stained with the ghost of 1,000 creations. The scribe makes a note on his tablet. Figulus, potter, a useful skill. You are shoved to one side of the square. Your wife and son are pushed forward next. The soldier barely glances at them. They are simply marked down as femina and pure. Woman and boy, they are pushed into a different group. Panic, cold and sharp, cuts through your exhaustion. You cry out, "They are my family." The legionary looks at you, his eyes empty of all expression. He does not understand your words, or he does not care. He shoves you back hard. An officer barks something in Latin, and the soldier moves on. You try to move towards them, but a spear butt in the ribs drives you to your knees, gasping for air. You watch, helpless, as your wife, her face a mask of terror, is herded away with the other women. Your son, looking back at you, his small face streaked with tears, disappears into the crowd. In the space of 30 seconds, your world has ended for a second time. You survived the siege, but you have lost everything that made survival worth choosing. You are given a small bowl of thin, tasteless gruel and a cup of water. It is the first truly filling meal you have had in months, but you can barely swallow it. The taste is of ash and despair. You are now just a number on a tablet, a resource to be cataloged and allocated. That night, you are kept with the other men in a makeshift stockade in the center of the square. You do not sleep. You listen to the sounds of your town being dismantled. You hear the crash of timbers as the legionaries begin the systematic demolition of the houses. You see the sky glow red as they set fire to the structures they cannot easily pull down. The home you built with your own hands, the workshop where you practiced your art, the cellar where you hid your grain, it is all being consumed by flame, erased from the earth. The Romans are not just conquering Vercorium, they are editing it out of history. The next morning, the march begins. You are chained at the wrist to a line of other men. You are marched out through the gate, past the silent, imposing siege works, and onto the road heading south, the Roman road. As you pass the line of poles, you avert your eyes. You do not want to see the face of your chieftain, or the faces of the men you knew, staring blankly out over the ruins of their world. The land around Vercorium is already being transformed. Roman surveyors are marking out new plots of land. These fields, which your people farmed for centuries, will be given to Roman veterans as a reward for their service. A new town will eventually be built here, a Roman town, with a grid of straight streets, a stone forum, a bathhouse. It will be called something like Julia Victrix or Flavia Castra. The name Vercorium will be forgotten, a footnote in a governor's report, a name spoken only by ghosts. You walk for days, the sun beats down, the chain chafes your wrist raw, the guards are brutal and efficient. Anyone who stumbles and cannot get up is cut from the line and left to die by the side of the road. You do not speak. No one does. You are a silent column of broken men, shuffling towards an unknown future. You think of your wife and son. Are they on this same road in a different column? Or have they been sent in another direction? Will you ever see them again? The not knowing is a special kind of torture, a wound that will never heal. Weeks later, you arrive at a major provincial city, a place of stone and marble, teeming with people from every corner of the world. Here in a vast, stinking slave market, your journey ends and your new life begins. You are put up on a block naked, while men in fine tunics inspect you, poke you, and haggle over your price. You are sold to the steward of a wealthy senator. Your skill as a potter has saved you from the mines or the galleys, a fate that will claim many of the other men from your town. It is a small, bitter mercy. You are taken to a vast country estate in the heart of Italy. Your new home is a small, windowless cell in the slave quarters. Your new work is in a large, well-equipped pottery workshop, producing endless stacks of identical red slip bowls and amphorae for your master's household and for sale. You are fed, you are clothed. You are not beaten as long as you work hard and cause no trouble. You are a valuable piece of property. Years pass, the sharp edges of your grief are worn smooth by the relentless, monotonous routine of your new life. You learn the basics of their language. You learn the rhythms of the estate. You learn to be invisible, to show no emotion, to expect nothing. But you never forget. At night, in the darkness of your cell, you close your eyes and you can still see it all. The glint of the sun on the Roman standards. The face of your neighbor, the weaver, his eyes burning with desperate logic. The sound of the great gate creaking open. The sight of your son's face as he was led away. You are a survivor. You breathe, you eat, you work. You have outlived your chieftain, your town, your entire world. But what exactly has survived? Your body is here, but your spirit died on the day the gates of Vercorium opened. You are a ghost, haunting the edges of the empire that consumed you. So would you survive a Roman siege? The question is not as simple as it sounds. Survival is not a binary state of living or dying. The Roman war machine was designed not just to kill, but to break, to dismantle a people piece by piece, their walls, their leaders, their families, their gods, their very names, until nothing was left but a collection of useful bodies and a space on the map to be repopulated. You might survive the hunger, the disease, and the violence. You might live to see another 20 years, but you would be a stranger in your own life, a relic of a forgotten world, your heart a silent testament to the price of Roman peace. You would carry the siege inside you for the rest of your days, a relentless internal assault on a city of memory that could never, ever be surrendered. You would live, yes, but you would not be whole. And that, perhaps, was the most profound and lasting victory the Romans could achieve.